The word Leviathan summons an image from the deep, It conjures a picture of a colossal sea beast, a monster of immense size and power, lurking in the dark, uncharted waters of the ocean. Many imagine a gigantic whale, its body the size of an island, or perhaps a great coiling serpent with scales that shimmer like shields. This creature feels ancient, untamable, and fundamentally wild. It represents a force of nature that humanity cannot hope to conquer or control. This powerful image has haunted our stories for thousands of years, a symbol of primal chaos and overwhelming might that continues to fascinate and frighten us in equal measure. The name itself, Leviathan, comes from Hebrew. It is rooted in a word that means to twist or to coil, which perfectly describes the serpentine form often attributed to the beast. This etymology paints a vivid picture of its movement through the water, a slithering, powerful motion that suggests both grace and immense danger. The Leviathan is not just a monster, it is an idea. It is the embodiment of the vast, mysterious, and often terrifying power beyond the neat boundaries of human civilization. It is the chaos that lurks at the edge of order, a concept so potent it has been adapted and reinterpreted across centuries. This ancient creature has been viewed in several distinct ways throughout history, each perspective adding a new layer to its meaning. For some, a literal monster created by God to show divine power. For others, a symbolic enemy representing chaos to be defeated for divine peace. And in a surprising twist, a metaphor for the modern state, necessary to prevent anarchy. The most famous and vivid descriptions of the Leviathan are found within the pages of the Bible. In the book of Job, the creature is presented in breathtaking detail. After Job suffers immensely and questions the justice of the world, God responds by speaking from a whirlwind. He challenges Job by describing his most powerful creations, asking if any mere mortal could possibly tame them. He speaks of the Leviathan, asking, "Can you pull in Leviathan with a fish hook or tie down its tongue with a rope?" The question is rhetorical, designed to humble Job and demonstrate the vast, unbridgeable gap between human weakness and divine omnipotence. God's description in Job continues, painting a picture of an utterly terrifying and indomitable beast. It is said to have rows of fearsome teeth and a hide covered in tightly sealed scales that no weapon can pierce. The text poetically claims that its sneezes flash with light, and that fire pours from its mouth, and that smoke pours from its mouth. Its heart is described as being hard as rock. The ultimate point of this terrifying portrait is clear. If a human like Job cannot even begin to comprehend or control a creature like the Leviathan, how can he possibly presume to understand or judge the God who created it? In the book of Psalms, the Leviathan appears in a different context, not as a lesson in humility, but as a symbol of defeated chaos. Psalm 74 is a lament, a cry to God in a time of destruction, recalling his past deeds of power. The psalmist remembers God's creation of the world, framing it as a victory over chaotic forces. The verse proclaims, "It was you who crushed the heads of Leviathan and gave it as food to the creatures of the desert." Here, the monster is not just a single beast, but a multi-headed entity representing the primordial chaos that God conquered to bring order and stability to the world. The prophet Isaiah offers yet another perspective, casting the Leviathan into a future eschatological role. In Isaiah 27, the prophet looks forward to a day of final judgment and redemption. He declares, "In that day, the Lord will punish with his sword, his fierce, great, and powerful sword. Leviathan, the gliding serpent, Leviathan, the coiling serpent. He will slay the monster of the sea." In this vision, the Leviathan is an enemy of God and his people, a symbol of evil and opposition that will be definitively destroyed in the end times. This act will signal the ultimate victory of divine order and the beginning of an era of lasting peace. Jewish rabbinic tradition expanded upon the biblical accounts, weaving the Leviathan into a richer and more elaborate tapestry of myth and legend. In these stories, the great sea monster does not exist alone. It is part of a trio of colossal beasts that rule over the different realms of the world. The Leviathan is the undisputed master of the sea. Its counterpart on land is the behemoth, a gigantic ox-like creature of immense strength. Completing the trio is the Ziz, a bird so enormous that its wingspan can block out the sun. Together, these three monsters represent the totality of the created world: water, earth, sky. These tales often describe an epic battle that is destined to take place between the Leviathan and the Behemoth at the end of time. The two colossal creatures, one from the sea and one from the land, will engage in a final, cataclysmic struggle. This battle symbolizes the clash of monumental forces at the culmination of history. In most versions of the story, both monsters are slain in the conflict, or they are slain by God himself. Their purpose, however, does not end with their death. Their passing is not just an end, but also a new beginning for the righteous, marking a transition into a new and redeemed world. The fate of these monsters takes a surprising turn in many rabbinic narratives. The creatures, once symbols of untamable power and chaos, are transformed into a source of celebration. According to these traditions, after the final battle, the flesh of the Leviathan and the Behemoth will be served at a great banquet for the righteous. Those who have lived good and faithful lives will be invited to feast upon these once terrifying beasts in the Messianic age. This act symbolizes the ultimate triumph of order over chaos, where the very things that once represented fear and danger are consumed and become part of a joyful celebration of divine victory. This narrative shift is deeply significant. It changes the Leviathan from a perpetual enemy into a finite part of God's divine plan. The monster is no longer just a symbol of wild, untamed nature, but a creature with a specific purpose, even if that purpose is only fulfilled at the end of days. This tradition transforms the ultimate symbol of fear into a promise of future reward. The righteous, who once trembled at the thought of such a beast, will one day sit in triumph and partake in a feast made from the monster itself. A powerful image of final security and divine providence. Section 4. The beast becomes the state. Hobbes's political monster. Quick, the famous Leviathan frontispiece. In the 17th century, the image leapt from myth into political thought. Thomas Hobbes, the English philosopher, he wrote in the aftermath of the brutal English Civil War. He imagined life without government, the state of nature. In that state, people driven by self-interest and by fear, leading to a war of all against all. Life would be solitary. Life would be poor. Life would be nasty. Life would be brutish. Life would be short. To escape this terrifying condition, Hobbes argued for a social contract. People must willingly give up some individual freedoms and submit to a central, absolute authority. That authority might be a monarch or another form of government. It would enforce laws, protect its citizens, and prevent society from collapsing into chaos. Hobbes needed a symbol for that all-powerful sovereign. He chose the ancient sea monster, the Leviathan. He titled his masterwork in 1651, Leviathan. For Hobbes, the state, the Commonwealth, is the Leviathan, an artificial person made up of individuals who consent. The famous frontispiece shows a giant crowned figure made of countless people. This mortal god holds power over both secular and religious life. Close up, the sword. Close up, the crozier. Like the biblical Leviathan, the political Leviathan must be too strong for any one person to challenge. Hobbes's choice was deliberate. He wanted the state's power to be absolute and unquestionable. The sovereign should inspire awe and even fear. That fear of punishment keeps selfish impulses in check. The monster once symbolized chaos. Now it's repurposed to defeat chaos. The state becomes a man-made monster, necessary to protect humanity and provide order. Section 5. The modern Leviathan. From corporate giants to storms. The powerful imagery of the Leviathan did not end with Thomas Hobbes. In the modern era, the term has broken free from its purely political and mythological origins to become a versatile descriptor for any entity of overwhelming size and power. One of the most common contemporary uses of the word is in the world of business and economics. a massive multinational corporation that dominates its industry, swallowing smaller competitors, wielding immense influence over markets and governments, is often referred to as a corporate Leviathan. This label captures the sense that such a company is too big, too powerful, and too impersonal to be easily controlled or held accountable. Beyond the boardroom, the name Leviathan is frequently invoked to describe the awesome and destructive power of nature itself. A particularly massive hurricane, a devastating tsunami, a historic blizzard might be called a Leviathan by news reporters or eyewitnesses. In this context, the word returns to its ancient roots, symbolizing a force of natural chaos that dwarfs human endeavors. When a storm of this magnitude bears down on a city, it feels like a monster rising from the deep, indifferent to human life, and capable of wiping away everything in its path. The term powerfully conveys our sense of helplessness in the face of nature's full fury. The image of the sea monster also remains a staple in our popular culture, appearing in countless books, films, and video games. Writers and artists continue to be drawn to the idea of a colossal creature from the deep. Sometimes it appears as a giant whale or squid, as in classic seafaring adventures. In science fiction, it might be an alien creature discovered in the oceans of another planet, or a giant, semi-biological war machine. In each case, the modern fictional Leviathan serves the same ancient purpose. It represents a monumental threat, a force of nature or technology that is far beyond the control of a single hero. This widespread use in everyday language shows how deeply the concept is ingrained in our collective imagination. We might speak of the Leviathan of bureaucracy to describe a hopelessly complex and impersonal government system. A massive, complicated piece of machinery or a sprawling, unmanageable project might jokingly be called a Leviathan. In all these instances, the word works as a powerful shorthand. It instantly communicates a sense of immense scale, intimidating complexity, and a power that seems to operate by its own rules, far beyond the influence of ordinary individuals trying to navigate it. The story of this monster is, in many ways, the story of our attempts to make sense of a world that often feels too large, too powerful, and too chaotic for us to manage. It is a tale that begins in the mythical depths and ends in the heart of our modern societies. Well, more or less. Section 6. A lasting symbol. Why the monster still swims in our minds. So why does this ancient idea of the Leviathan continue to hold such a powerful grip on our imagination, thousands of years after it first appeared in myth and scripture? The answer lies in its profound ability to blend our deepest fears with a sense of awe and wonder. The Leviathan speaks to a fundamental human experience, the feeling of being small in a vast and often dangerous world. The ocean itself has always been a source of mystery and dread, a seemingly infinite space where unknown things reside. The image of a great beast rising from its depths is the perfect embodiment of that primal fear of the unknown. But the Leviathan is more than just a monster. It is a powerful tool for thinking about the nature of power itself. The original biblical stories used the creature to explore the power of God, the weakness of humanity. Thomas Hobbes repurposed it to examine the power of the state, the chaos of the individual. In modern times, we use it to talk about the power of corporations, technology, nature. The Leviathan forces us to confront difficult questions. What forces in our world are too big for us to control? Who or what is truly in charge? How do we find order and safety in a world filled with such overwhelming powers? The enduring strength of the Leviathan lies in its adaptability. It is not a static symbol with a single, fixed meaning. Instead, it has evolved with us, changing its shape to reflect the anxieties and power structures of each new era. It can be a divine creature, a symbol of evil, a political necessity, a corporate giant. This flexibility ensures its continued relevance. As our societies and our fears change, the Leviathan changes too, providing a timeless metaphor for the forces that shape our lives, whether they come from the depths of the sea or the heart of our own civilizations. Ultimately, the Leviathan remains with us because it is a story about the struggle for control. It represents the line between order and chaos, safety and danger, the known and the unknown. It is a concept that is at once terrifying and strangely comforting. For in naming the great, overwhelming forces of our world, we take the first step toward understanding them. The monster may be ancient, but the questions it raises are eternal. It continues to swim in the deep waters of our collective mind, a lasting symbol of the power, danger, and mystery that define the human condition.